even before the game is played with our WagerRewards program. How does it work? Simple. Earn wager rewards on every purchase made at WagerTalk and Sports Memo. Those wager rewards can be converted into wager bucks on the first of every month. There is no additional fee to participate, and no additional details are required outside your valid WagerTalk or Sports Memo membership. On the first of each month, 5% of your wager rewards will be converted to wager bucks, which are available to purchase on all future purchases. Doesn't it feel good to be part of a rewards program with no additional hoops?
Happy Friday, everybody. Friday starts the weekend, and we are here to make your weekend a profitable one through the props betting markets. I am Andy Lang from WagerTalk. Joining me, as always, my fellow prop masters, Matt Josephs from sportsmemo.com, Andrew McInnis from wagertalk.com. And gentlemen, hopefully we all got a good night of sleep. That game, hopefully put us to bed pretty early. I know we had to stay up and watch overtime, but it certainly didn't get the adrenaline pumping. So we're going to go over our Thursday night recap. We're going to break down some NFL games, and we've got our prop it up bet of the week coming at the end. Andrew, real quick, give us some thoughts on Thursday Night Football. I mean, is there anything helpful we can take away from that debacle last night? Maybe just some unders moving forward on these teams. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these games on Thursdays, everyone always says, why were they invented? Why are these short week games even there? Last night's the reason for it, but there's so many things we could say. We could say, why does Hackett still have a job? Why did Wilson get paid that much? Why was Matt Ryan supposed to be the answer? There's plenty of things we can say. What I want to take out of the game last night, guys, is very simple. I said to you guys in our group chat and on this show so many times that I just struggle to get behind these INT props. After that game I saw last night, there will not be a doubt in my mind that there will be some games throughout the rest of this season that I will not hesitate to take a quarterback to get an interception to make an interception, because this is just absolutely ridiculous. Some of the throws we saw made, some of those guys were throwing to ghosts out there. I mean, they weren't even close. So what did I learn? I learned that I'm going to be a lot more comfortable moving forward taking a quarterback to throw a pick. That's what I learned, Andy.
Yeah, as soon as Matt Ryan threw it to the wrong team, I immediately had so many regrets. I was like, that was just sitting right there for everybody to play. This was the easiest one of the night. How did I miss it? Matt, you had a great read on last night's game. Nice work. You had some kind of obscure props, but they did really well. So when you have a good read on a game, you were able to take advantage of it. So walk us through some of those props that you cashed, and what was your thinking behind it? You had a great night.
Yeah, well, first off, we had the over on Alec Pierce's receiving yards, and he was, he's steadily trending up, and you're always looking for guys like that, and Surtain did what we kind of somewhat expected him to do with regards to following Pittman all over the place. Darby lined up against him, so I figure with Pierce kind of getting the third-string corner, we were going to get some value there. I also took under 36.5 passing yards for Matt Ryan's longest pass. I think it was like 20. I mean, his arm's shot. And it's funny because it's in Denver. You think that would help, but his arm's pretty much shot. I also took the longest field goal over 46.5 yards. 14 of the last 20 games in Denver have gone over that. McManus is a cannon for a leg. He's going to kick 50 yards with regularity. And then McLaughlin is a sneaky good kicker, too, from distance. And we saw that last night. So it's probably going to be almost close to an auto bet for me in Denver to take the longest field goal over, especially if it's around 46.5 yards. And then, of course, we talked about this before the show about how they're refunding Nyheim Hines bets. I think on the opposite end, if you predict a guy whose total was 9.5 to have like a massive game like Eric Sobert yesterday, you should get paid double or triple. I had over 9.5 yards for the Denver tight end. He got targeted like 10 times, it felt like, had like 6 catches, and it felt good. So, yeah, I didn't think it was going to be as ugly as it was, Andy, but certainly was nice to come out with a 4-0 sweep.
Maybe we'll do our thoughts on books randomly picking some bets to refund and others to not refund at the end of the show, so we don't get into that. We don't want this to turn into first take. Let's get some bets going. Matt, incredible 11-2-1 NFL prop run. You can grab his NFL props over at sportsmemo.com. Andrew, I keep telling people CFL. First off, thank you. You introduced me to CFL, and I hope you've introduced other people to it because it is a sport that should be added to portfolios. I know we're kind of wrapping up the regular season soon, but it's been a great year, and you got a 5% play that's up 5% CFL plays in a row. That is fantastic. Grab that at WagerTalk.com. And I've got a 5% NFL play up. I'm on a 5-1 run for NFL props. So love the card this weekend. It was tough to narrow it down. All right, guys, let's get into breaking down some games. Matt, I'm coming to you first. Eagles and Cardinals. You follow the Eagles really, really close. So talk to us about what you can expect from the Eagles and this Cards team that continues to be a little bit of an enigma. They struggle. So what do you expect? We looking at some overs or unders in this game?
First of all, I thought it was funny last week in the comments. We love the comments. We love our fans or our haters, whatever they are. The guy's like, I'm tired of hearing about the Eagles. And it's like, well, I mean, we are undefeated. I did say we. And, you'd ideally want to hear from somebody who follows the team and could give you some good information. So that's why I kind of talk about the Eagles. Tight ends. This is the tight end game for me. The Cardinals for the longest time were the worst tight end team. Like when you were in fantasy football, you wanted the guy who was going up against the Cardinals because they couldn't cover tight ends to save their life. And I think they had like a year or two where they were better. Well, they're back to being terrible at covering tight ends. So I think this is a Dallas Goedert game. I think 3.5 receptions is very reasonable for Dallas Goedert. Now, look, his numbers, I think he's gone 4-3, 4-3 or something like that. He's gone over it in only 2 of his 4 games. But I think Dallas Goedert, I like the receptions a little bit more, although he is a yak guy. He does catch the ball and go somewhere, unlike our former tight end who's on Arizona who would catch the ball and fall down. We'll get to him in just a moment. So I like Dallas Goedert here. The Jalen Hurts passing numbers are still really low. I think there's still a little bit of value here. I think this is going to be a passing game for Jalen Hurts. It's like 247.5 or whatever. I think that's pretty good. You look at what he's done this season in games where it feels like he should throw the ball. He probably could have gone over against the Jaguars if not for the weather. So I think Hurts is certainly in play here. I'm still not going to look at that running back room. Trey Sermon did some good things. I think that Trey Sermon's going to get some carries from time to time and eat into Kenneth Gainwell. And then on the Cardinal side, I think Zach Ertz gets some value here. It is the reunion game. Every week's been a reunion game for the Eagles. And I think he's going to do pretty well here. Kyler loves to throw the ball to him. I also think there might be some value on Rondale Moore. I think that the slot is a place that the Eagles are a little bit vulnerable. The few times that the Jaguars put Christian Kirk in the slot, that's when he got his big catches. So I think Rondale Moore has a little bit of value here, especially if Avonte Maddox doesn't play. Keep an eye on that injury report today because if he's out, I think you look to take advantage of the slot once again. I see lots of points in this game. I think there's going to be a lot of the stars are going to do what they're supposed to. I'm staying away from all the running backs, but we're focusing in on the tight ends in this one because I think Ertz and Goddard will be big.
Yeah, amazing how bad the Cardinals have been this year. It's just been easy to cash on those tight ends against Cardinals. Great stuff from Matt Joseph, sportsmemo.com. Andrew, let's take a look at the Dolphins and the Jets. Tua is obviously out. I don't know. Not that big of a step down from Tua to Teddy Bridgewater. Tyreek Hill certainly seems pretty confident. I love the quote when they asked him about, are you worried about going from Tua to Teddy Bridgewater? And he said, I can get my numbers with anybody. So what do you think about the Dolphins and the Jets here with Zach Wilson?
Yeah, well, I have to thank you for taking that quote from me, Andy. No,
I'm sorry.
Look, there's all kinds of great things that, another good one was just Teddy Bridgewater saying that he learned everywhere he's been so far, he learned that he has to, I know it sounds so cliche and kind of corny, but he said he has to be himself. He can't try and be, who the other quarterback is, right? But I think that there's just way too much being made out of this drop-off. People were calling for Tua's head and saying he was overrated a few weeks ago until he started putting up some good numbers, I think that this Dolphins team, and albeit I had to make mention that they definitely are a little banged up, but I think the guys will be good to go come Sunday. They've got a lot of weapons, right? And you take a look at Teddy Bridgewater, everyone keeps calling him, captain checkdown and a game manager type quarterback. Well, I'm looking at Teddy Bridgewater's longest completion. That's a prop I like quite a bit. It's anywhere between 33.5 yards, 34, 35. I mean, you take a look at, first of all, what he was able to do to cash that if you were able to bet it last week, right? When he came into the game or when he played. And then you look at, what he's done before. I mean, he's hit this in 5 of his last 7 games. He has several guys that run downfield. This is an offense that's super exciting. And based on what I've seen from the coaching staff, they don't really plan on changing things very much. They're not acting like the sky is falling because Tua is not going to be playing. So I look at this team and right away, and another guy I'm looking at is Giuseppe, because, looking at his targets, looking at his catch percentage, looking at how low his number is at 20.5, I think that if we do see Bridgewater, not bombing it out and airing the ball out as much, he will be a guy that he goes to quite a bit. And I expect points in this game. I don't expect this one to be a dud. I don't expect this one to be a stinker just because we've got some issues, not just on the Dolphins, but on the Jets side of the field as well. I'm looking at Zach Wilson over on his pass attempts. Last year, I talked with you guys about how I really was getting into the QB pass completion prop. This year, I really like the pass attempts prop. It's very simple. Obviously, it's a much higher number, but when you're betting on a quarterback that maybe you're iffy about, you're just betting on the game plan. You're betting on the game script, whether or not you think they're going to be down, whether you think it's going to be a back and forth contest. I've had success betting on these pass attempt props much more than I've had with these completions. And, well, guys, I think last night's game would be a pretty good indication as to why the pass attempt prop might be better off than the completion prop sometimes. And I think Zach Wilson is a really good prop for that for this week. But I just don't think the sky is falling. The fact that Teddy Bridgewater is playing, and it seems like the masses really do, Andy. And for me, my favorite play on this game is Teddy Bridgewater's longest completion.
Love it. Yeah, I'm with you. They certainly got the weapons to do that. Let's take a look at the Cowboys and Rams. That's going to be my first game to break down. Listen, it's pretty easy here. You look at the defenses. The Rams, they're tough to run on, but easy to pass on. The Cowboys, tough to pass on, easy to run on. So where do we look here? I think you got to look at Allen Robinson under 40.5 yards. It's not working for him. His receiving totals this year are 12, 53, 23, and 7. The guy doesn't even have 100 yards total receiving this year. And the game he went over was against the Falcons. They have the 8th most receiving yards allowed. So Dallas, 6th fewest receiving yards this season. I think Stafford's going to be in trouble. I think they're going to get to him a lot. He's going to be under pressure, which means he's going to have to hit timing routes. And his timing with Allen Robinson has just been awful. I think you look to him to go under. I'm also looking at CD Lamb here. They're going to be able to throw. I've liked Cooper Rush. I've cashed his over 1.5 passing touchdowns at big time plus money. You can get it still again at plus money against the Rams. I would lean more towards going over on yards with Cooper Rush because the Rams don't allow passing touchdowns, but they do allow a lot of yards. So it's 229.5. The only quarterback to not go over this total against the Rams is Marcus Mariota, who doesn't throw a whole lot. And CeeDee Lamb, I was looking at Noah Brown. We've cashed on him before. I was looking at Dalton Schultz under because Cooper Rush doesn't throw to him very much. And sometimes I was like, you know what, let's just play the big name guy. CeeDee Lamb over 61.5 yards receiving. So with Cooper Rush this year, he's had 75, 87, and 97 yards receiving. He's also gone over his longest reception in every game. With Cooper Rush and with Michael Gallup back, it's going to be hard for the Rams to single out one receiver to cover. I don't even think they have the personnel to single out one receiver as we've seen guys torch him. I think CeeDee Lamb has a big game. 61.5 just seems a little bit too low, especially when you look at Cooper Rush's number at 229.5. If he gets to 230 yards, CeeDee Lamb is absolutely getting 62 yards receiving. And then, of course, we have to look at Matthew Stafford to throw an interception. It's only minus 125. Feels like a bargain against this ball-hawking Cowboys defense, but they're going to get pressure on there. And then the last weird thing that I'd like to mention is Ezekiel Elliott has gone over his rushing total in every game this season, which seems weird. It's 46.5 this game, but this is going to be the toughest rush defense he's been on. So we'll see if Ezekiel can continue his streak, move to 5-0 over his rushing totals. But I got to tell you, I like the passing game of Dallas to cash here. So, Matt, coming back to you, we're going to stick with your division. We've got the Commanders and the Titans. Is this a sneaky game with a lot of stats, potentially, a lot of points? I don't think a lot of people would have this circle, but you look and we got some pretty iffy defenses. We could have some pretty good offensive performances here.
Let me check. The quarterbacks are Ryan Tannehill and Carson Wentz. That should tell you your answer right there. I mean, in theory, you're right, Andy. There's some weaknesses on each side that you can certainly take advantage of. I just don't trust the quarterbacks. And look, Washington's defense has been good up front. Their secondary has their one or two miscommunications every game, and that leads to big plays. But who's going to have? Is it going to be Robert Woods? Because if Treylon Burks is out, who's the second wide receiver? Who's the third? Like, I don't even know who these guys are. And look, Washington's been really good against the run, and obviously Derrick Henry, did his thing last week, but it took him a lot of carries to do so. I think that looking at the attempts for him, but we also saw him getting receiving. And the problem with this is every once in a while, guys, it feels like he gets these receiving yards. You're like ready to bet it again the next week, and then they forget to throw the ball to him. And I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case. It feels like the Nick Chubb bet that I continue to try and chase when it comes to his receiving yards. They always put out the 7.5, and there's weeks it sails over, and then the next week they don't throw the ball to him. So, I'm not ready to say auto bet Derrick Henry over receiving every time. On the Washington side, it'll be very interesting to see what the injury report says for Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson coming back makes this thing a three-headed monster in the back, and I think they want Brian Robinson to be the number one by far. I don't know how ready they are to throw him in the fire and give him 10 carries, 3 catches, things like that. So I want to see if the coach at all today says, hey, Brian Robinson's probable. We're thinking a snap count, 15 to 20 snaps. If he does come in, I wonder what that does to J.D. McKissic, because Antonio Gibson is the guy that they kind of want to go and they want to throw these dump passes to and get him out in space. As I've said, he's not a between the tackles guy. He's not a guy you're going to hand off and let him run into the offensive line and hope for big plays. So I think there might be some value if Brian Robinson comes back on Antonio Gibson's under, depending upon if Ron Rivera says, here's a snap count for Brian Robinson. I just don't think they're going to hand the ball off to Antonio Gibson with Robinson around. Also, I keep waiting. It's coming. The Terry McLaurin breakout game is coming. And I think that it may not necessarily be this week, even though their corners are really bad. And I also think Logan Thomas comes into play here. Tennessee can't guard the tight end. The problem is I don't trust the guy getting them the ball. Like Carson Wentz, he's regressing. And he's even regressing from his own regressions from the past. So, in theory, you're right, Andy. This should be a huge game. Washington should score 24 points. They should be able to win this game easily. But I don't trust Carson Wentz to get the ball to Terry McLaurin, who should be open. I don't trust him to get the ball to Logan Thomas. That's why I'm kind of focusing in on this backfield once we get a little bit of clarity to kind of fade Antonio Gibson, play some Brian Robinson stuff, and then J.D. McKissic. Who the heck knows with him?
Yeah, it's a messy backfield. I do think they've just been kind of waiting and biding their time to see when they can get Brian Robinson back. I've got a fantasy football team where I stashed him on my bench and could not be happier with how. I mean, he's really he's coming back way sooner. This guy that got shot in the leg, he's almost back. I'd be done for years. So shout out to Brian Robinson. Andrew, coming to you. Falcons, one of the surprise teams this year. Surprise in a good way with how the team has been playing. If you own Kyle Pitts in fantasy, surprise in a bad way because he's been pretty brutal. And they're playing the Buccaneers. So we've got Brady, we got Godwin, we got Evans, we got Fournette, then we've got Mariota, we got Kyle Pitts, got a lot of big name guys in the props market. So break it down for us. What do you like in this Falcons-Buccaneers game? I was going to do that.
I wanted to say, and we talk about all these flat spots or revenge games or all these different, type of titles on games. Can we label this as the divorce game? Maybe, I don't know. Tom Brady, has he ever lost this many games in a row? Has he ever had a bad game against the Falcons? Has he ever had a bad game after he's filed for divorce? We're going to find that out. To me, this is a big bounce back game. This is a situation for me where it's a keep it simple, stupid. And I'm looking at Tom Brady, this, that, and the other way for me. When you look at a player and what they've done in their career in general, just against one team, I'm looking at over 2.5 passing touchdowns. You can get that at a really hefty price around, I think, anywhere between plus 140 and even plus 160. I saw at some places. I also saw Marcus Mariota. It was kind of funny to see with him. He hadn't even gone over on his passing yards once so far this season, which was pretty interesting. Leonard Fournette is a guy, and I always love these quotes when players give a shout out to fantasy managers. He pretty much said, "Don't worry, guys, I got you with some touchdowns coming up." Well, he finally punched one in, but I'm looking at his receiving yards. Leonard Fournette is getting the ball in the backfield. They're chipping it off to him, letting him do some work. So that number to me is a little bit low for him. But look, I wanted to bring up this game because of kind of how you introed it, Andy, how the Falcons have impressed. The Falcons have put some points together. And I also wanted to come on the show today and kind of own it, because I came probably 3 or 4 times here in the summer and said how bad they were going to be. Well, at least they're doing pretty well against the spread, and they're kind of hanging in there in certain games. But I don't trust these guys. I think the Buccaneers are going to really hold on to possession. They're going to have very, very long drives. They're going to keep the Falcons off the field. So I've been looking at quite a few unders this week with some key guys for Atlanta. But for the Buccaneers, look, you heard it from me. I'm taking Tom Brady in as many different ways as I can, not just because of the joke, obviously, about his personal stuff. I shouldn't even be joking around about that. But he owns this team. All the quotes I've seen from him, they're ready to go. The guys in the locker room, they've talked about how they want to right their wrongs, and they're off a pretty rough game. So this, to me, is a really good team to bounce back against, and I'm expecting them to do it. So one thing about this Bucs team, though, it takes them a long time to drive the field, which is a really good thing for props. I got to ask you guys, do you guys ever look at on team rankings? I always take a peek at the time of possession or time per drive, because sometimes when you look at that, you can really check it out and just see, like, maybe you can accumulate some props there, receptions or different things like that. Like, there's some teams where their drives are so quick when they score that you're better off taking yards versus receptions, because you might just see 1 or 2 guys catch the ball and go for 20 or 30 yards afterwards. This Tampa team, they like to take a lot of the clock. They could take 6-7 minutes to march the field and then settle for a field goal, and that's what really helps with, full game unders, of course, as far as the sides and totals goes. But do you guys ever look at the possession as far as how long teams take for their drives? Because I feel like that takes into account for me with my props.
Matt, what do you think? Do you look at time of possession? Do you look at time per play? What do you look at?
I do that more in college than I do in the pros. To me, I mean, they're all pretty close to it, feels like, nobody runs the no huddle offense. Nobody, I mean, there's some people, most teams huddle. So yeah, I look at that more in college football than I do in the NFL, I feel like.
All right, let us turn our attention to the 49ers and the Panthers. We'll look at this from a prop betting perspective. I got to say, guys, I think everyone has the Bills and the Steelers game circled as a blowout type of game. I think this 49ers-Panthers could get really ugly. So Pro Football Focus, they grade the Panthers offense as the 3rd worst offense in the league, and they grade San Francisco as the best overall defense in the league. And this could be the week that the Panthers just completely implode. Baker looks terrible. DJ Moore is unhappy. Christian McCaffrey is doing nothing outside of one 50-yard run that he got. And San Francisco just looks like they keep getting better and better every week, and they're going to keep getting better and better every week with Garoppolo. So let's take a look at some props here. Christian McCaffrey under 53.5 rushing yards, I think, is worth a look against this defense. I don't know how the game script stays where they're not going to have to throw, and this is just a gnarly defense against the run. So there's no way I'm taking Christian McCaffrey overs. DJ Moore has gone under his receiving total every single game this season. Last week was interesting, though. He got his most targets, receptions, and yards this season, but it was against the Cardinals, who do not have a great secondary, and I don't think this passing offense is going to be too difficult to defend for San Francisco. That being said, he may get there just on sheer volume. It looked like kind of the squeaky wheel got the grease last week. We'll see, but if there is one guy that they're going to try and take out, it's DJ Moore. Just hearing his interview and seeing how frustrated he is with this team, I'm not going to be playing the over, but I don't think I'm going back to his under now that the books have his total lowered down to 50. And then I'm leaning under on Garoppolo, 220.5 passing yards. They may not need to pass this a ton. Garoppolo doesn't have over 18 completions in a game this year. It could be a huge rushing day for the 49ers. And you guys know, once a Kyle Shanahan team gets a lead, they just run. They don't get cute. The Broncos could learn a thing or two from this. Garoppolo threw for 239 yards last week, but 57 of that was a really big yards after the catch reception from Debo. I don't think they're going to need to pass the ball very much. And with Garoppolo being the only quarterback that they have now, this is a great game for him to not take any punishment, not take any shots, and for them to play it pretty conservative. I think the defense holds this Carolina team down. Maybe you might look at Baker Mayfield over 7.5 rushing yards, as I think this 49ers team is going to be able to get to him, and he may have to take off and run a couple times. But for me, it's unders on McCaffrey, and I'm leaning an under on Garoppolo, as I think it's going to be not needed to pass a whole lot in this game. So, but I got to say the spread seems really low. I think 49ers kind of come out and cream the
Andy,
Panthers.
are you not concerned about San Fran, short week, travel, some of that stuff that comes into play? I know that doesn't as much worry about for props and things like that, but that's like my one worry about expecting like the San Francisco defense to be massive in this one.
If it was against a good team, yeah, but this offense is putrid. It's just, I mean, I can't even say it's one-dimensional. It's like no-dimensional. It's like what scares you about Christian McCaffrey can't get going. Baker's not scaring anybody in the passing game, and this 49ers team is deep. That's the other thing. You go look at some of their snap counts, because I've been looking at some of their defensive props. They have guys that they can rotate in. They have some guys that are playing all the defensive snaps. But the other thing is, I think I'm not too worried about 49ers because I think they control the ball a lot. We just talked about possession. I think they could have 35 plus minutes of possession, use the game clock down, and use their running backs. So no, I'm not worried about the rest. Not against this team. If they were playing the Chiefs, yeah, gigantic red flag. But they're playing nothing like the Chiefs. So, all right, guys, let's do a couple of little topics here before we get to the best bet. Andrew, here we go. Hockey season. It's right around the corner. You had an unbelievable hockey year last year. Congratulations on that. Props, I feel like, are becoming more and more prevalent, especially at WagerTalk. It's extremely gettable. It's a great market. I hope more people are getting involved with that. And I know you're going to be doing more content on Puck Time. I hope to be joining you. But talk to us about the NHL opening season. We got a couple of games. I believe they're over in Europe. So what are you looking at for some of these NHL props to get the season started?
Well, Andy, I just want to say, of course, the door is always open on Puck Time for you to come and join Carm and I. So, look, so it's really weird because the preseason is actually still going on in North America. But over in Europe, the NHL regular season has started, as weird as that sounds. So just because it'll take some time for those teams to get back and get settled here, in America and Canada. So they're starting the regular season. And they're starting the regular season off with a back-to-back, which is just weird. Number one, against the same team. And number two, just to start the season off like that seems a little bit weird to me. Anybody concerned about the travel? They've been over there for, I think, about a week and a half now, playing exhibition games against other European teams. So that's not really an issue. But taking a look at things, I know some recreational bettors have really fallen in love with a bet called Nerfy, the no runs first inning. I'm going to throw a curveball at you guys and say, we'll have to try and find a name for this, but I'm going to go no goal in the first 10 minutes in this hockey game here today with the San Jose Sharks and the Nashville Predators today and tomorrow These games are in the middle of the afternoon. I believe it started at around 2 Eastern time, so not too far away. I'm going to go with no goal in the first 10 minutes, kind of a curveball here today on the show for you guys. I believe, especially being that far out, playing some different style of hockey, playing in different arenas, getting some new guys in your team, trying to establish chemistry. The defense is what's really the focus to start these games off. It takes a while for them to establish the offensive chemistry, which is why I'll probably be looking for a lot more props in game 2. One thing to mention, a guy that you probably know quite a bit, Andy, for the prop betting world in NHL, Roman Josi. Obviously, being a European guy, he's had a lot of fun out there. He's enjoyed. It's been a big part of this trip for the NHL going over to Europe. I'll be looking at his shots on goal over 2.5. It doesn't really seem too juiced to me compared to what we saw, what we see in the playoffs from him and what we saw later in the season last year. So Roman Josi over 2.5 shots seems to be pretty good. Some spots are offering 3, but you can get a better price with that as well. A guy I really want to focus on this year is Erik Karlsson. He has been a big letdown ever since signing that contract. He kind of reminds me of what Russell Wilson is doing so far this year for the Broncos. I mean, he got paid and that's about it. He has not been that great for this team, and I'll continue to bet his unders. Erik Karlsson to get over 0.5 point. I'm looking at under on that. And Erik Karlsson under on assists, looking under on that. He's someone that I have to see it before I can believe it. But what I'll really will give people recommendations for these first couple days for the European betting, and before I see you next Friday on Prop It Up again, is I would say that later in the season is when you start to see those superstars really stick out. At the start of the year, you actually are going to see some depth players get a lot more time, especially when it's not a big matchup. So I used to think it was the other way around, but over the past few years, I've noticed some depth pieces are going to score and going to make things happen early. And it's because the coaching staffs want to see what you can do, want to see who you fit with. And then once they establish the line pairings, things will start to settle out a little bit. But really looking forward to NHL season starting. As far as the game today, I just have props. And tomorrow, I have a play up at WagerTalk for that.
Nice. Yeah, really encourage everyone to add NHL to their portfolio. Just some props here or there can really increase your bankroll. So all those units are super, super valuable. Matt, coming to you. We got playoff baseball, and playoff baseball, as we know, is very, very different from regular season baseball. Talk to us about the K-prop market and how do we look at the K-prop market? It's got to be a little bit different. So how do you go after these playoff props here in MLB?
Yeah, I think that it becomes a whole lot more different because teams are quicker to yank certain pitchers out. And I think today, if you look at today's starting pitchers, it's pretty funny. And you could kind of get this correlation from the outs market with the K-prop market a little bit. They didn't offer an outs prop for Jose Quintana today. And the reason why, and I think this is something you kind of have to look for, is when teams put in an extra starting pitcher or two in their bullpen and things like that, then they're more apt to have a guy like Quintana go 4 innings and then bring in a Jordan Montgomery or bring in a Adam Wainwright, whatever they've decided to do with their pitching rotation. So I think that you see the names today and you see all the guys who are pitching, you're automatically thinking, all right, overs. You got Max Scherzer at 5.5. You've got Shane Bieber at 5.5. You've got some of these other guys that have these such manageable numbers, and your mind thinks that it's going to go to over. But this is the time. And look, the Mets have already said they don't know what they're going to do with DeGrom. There's no chance he's pitching today, but he may pitch tomorrow. And if he does pitch tomorrow, do they have Scherzer go shorter? It's Max Scherzer. So I think the one thing you have to program yourself to do when it comes to the postseason is just because you're seeing really good pitchers doesn't mean they're going to go over. McClanahan for the Rays coming up at noon. His outs prop is only 15.5. His strikeout prop going against the Guardians is 4.5. So people think that he's not going to go long in this game. And the Rays have shown that they'll basically be okay having their starters go 5 and then kind of piecing together the rest of the game. So don't automatically see the big names and then say, yeah, I got to go over. There might be more value in the outs market if you have a hunch. I think I have a play today with a guy that I think is going to go over his outs prop because they can't afford to take him out early. So you can find that on Sports Memo. But I think there's some value potentially. The earn runs allowed props. If you think a guy's going to go short and he's one of these guys who's going to get taken out early, even if he's pitching well, take his under on his earn runs allowed prop. So I think there's some value in the pitching market, but you have to be very careful because there's certain managers who are going to yank their guys out early, and you're going to lose on some value there.
Great stuff on how to attack some of these K props in the playoffs. Guys, I put in the show notes I was going to talk about golf props. Then I realized it's Friday before a big football weekend, and I thought better of it. Matt suggested maybe I go over some Formula One props. I could talk about the Aston Martin cars and their new wing and aerodynamics. But instead, we're going to do NFL team totals. Let's take a look at some teams where there's some value. Sebastian Vettel top 10. All right. First off, we got to look at a couple teams that have been scoring a lot of points. The Lions are 4-0 to the over on their team total. They're averaging 35 points a game. Their team total this week is a stunningly low 20.5 against the Patriots. The Patriots give up 24.5 points a game. Now, listen, be careful with the Lions. They are about as banged up on offense as it gets. So check the injury report and see who is playing in this game. A lot of guys were missing practice, but Lions have been good. Jaguars, the only other team to go completely 100% over their team total in all 4 games. They're averaging 26.5 points a game. Their team total is 25.5 against the Texans. Texans give up 23.3 points a game. Let's notable teams that are on under trends. The Rams, believe it or not, are 1-3 to the under on their team total. It's 23.5 against the Cowboys. Cowboys, they're only allowing 15.5 points a game. That one is mighty, mighty tempting. And then the Dolphins are 1-3 to the under on their team total. It's 24.5 against the Jets. The Jets give up 25.3 points a game. Little trivia. Matt, you may know this. What team what team has yet to cover their team total under? Any idea? What team has been so bad on offense? Eagles? So bad that they're 0-5. There's the kid. They're 0-5.
What team has not?
What team has played 5 games, Matt? And my Indianapolis Colts have not gone over.
And it's been bad.
And I'm not taking an over on them anytime soon. My goodness. And the Broncos, for that matter, are 1-4 now. So the Colts and Broncos are combined 1-9 to the overall team totals. Just some horrific offense. So, all right, guys, we're getting ready to do our best bet of the week. Real quick, Matt, you're on an 11-2-1 NFL prop run. Talk to us and tell everyone what you have for this weekend and where we can find you at.
I got one prop for today. I'm taking it very light on the baseball slate today. So I got one prop for the Phillies game coming up, and I have my college football card will be up soon, and we're doing pretty well there. And then, of course, the NFL props. They'll start going up today over the next couple of days. So if you buy the package for it, as I put them up, you will get them in your inbox over at sportsmemo.com.
Great stuff from Matt Josephs. I'm Andy Lang, WagerTalk.com. Got a 5% NFL play that is up 5-1 on NFL. 5% plays, a nice run, and we got a card that we just love. We're doing really well. We hit another first quarter under that last night. That strategy is going just incredibly well. 16-9-2 so far. So NFL plays are up. We're going to have a UFC play that is up later today. That's for next week. So go ahead and grab that at WagerTalk. Andrew, coming to you. Tell everyone what you have, and you have the Prop It Up bet of the week. So tell us what you got. You got that awesome 5% Canadian Football League play, which is fantastic. Tell us about that, and then give us our bet of the week.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, well, first of all, I appreciate you boosting up the CFL and betting on it and chatting with me about it, because nobody wants to talk about CFL right now. That's in the summer when there's nothing else to bet on. So look, college football is here, NFL is here. There's still money to be made in the CFL. Like Andy said, 4-0, last 5% CFL wagers. I'm 75% on 5% plays since the start of July. And these 5% plays have been on a really, really good run. I've got props up for the weekend in NFL. My side of the week is up as well. And hockey is back, guys. Grab that early bird special, $5.99. It will go back to $6.99. And I increased bankrolls by 153% last year. That includes playoffs as well on the ice. So looking forward to another big season as far as that goes. Guys, I don't talk about my team enough as far as it comes to football. And yes, I said my team, Matt. We all got to say our team. Look, the Green Bay Packers, to me, they're playing a team this week, obviously across the pond, that they're two teams this week that both have good run games. And I've had a good read on whether it was an A.J. Dillon week or it was an Aaron Jones week. Today, I'm looking at Aaron Jones over on his rushing prop. When you look at the Green Bay Packers, when they've played teams that don't really have good offenses, like New England or Chicago Bears, Jones went over. He had around 110, 115, 20 rushing yards. This guy has had a beast of days when he's played inferior offenses, when the Green Bay Packers have decided to just run the ball and milk the clock that way and establish possession. That's what I look for from him, And we see this Giants team, they're the 5th worst team against the run in the entire National Football League. So I like Aaron Jones. Wake up early, guys. Have your coffee, have your breakfast, and start your day off with a winner with Aaron Jones over on his rushing yards, over 58.5.
There we go. Prop of the week. We're taking Aaron Jones over 58.5 rushing yards. Got to give a shout out to the chat room. You guys are awesome. Brian, Raven, Ron, Henry, I see you. Abby, love you every week. Jim, RJ, Alex. Who am I missing? You guys know who you are. There's too many of you to thank. Thank you guys for joining us. Seriously, love chatting with you guys. Leave us a comment. Leave us a like. You guys are all probably subscribed, so I don't need to tell you that. But really appreciate it. It really motivates us to see everyone showing up live to watch it. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it for us. Should be a great weekend. We got great slate of college football, great slate of NFL. Really, really gettable games with props. So don't forget to check out Andrew at WagerTalk.com, Matt Josephs at SportsMemo.com. I'm Andy Lang at WagerTalk.com. Good luck. Let's have a great weekend. We'll see everyone next week on Prop It Up.
You're a winner at WagerTalk even before the game is played with our WagerRewards program. How does it work? Simple. Earn WagerRewards on every purchase made at WagerTalk and SportsMemo. Those WagerRewards can be converted into WagerBucks on the first of every month. There is no additional fee to participate, and no additional details are required outside your valid WagerTalk or SportsMemo membership. On the first of each month, 5% of your WagerRewards will be converted to WagerBucks, which are available to purchase on all future purchases. Doesn't it feel good to be part of a rewards program with no additional hoops?